What do you call a country in which you can be arrested for complaining about your child's state school? Britain, it turns out.
We were showing the Benny Hill British Police Force, but the truth is, of course, stranger than the comedy.
On the 29th of January 2025, 6 police officers raided the Borehamwood home of Maxie Allen and Rosalind Levine and arrested them on suspicion of harassment, malicious communications and causing a nuisance on school property. All because they'd been locked in a protracted, largely online row with their daughter's primary school. We went to Borehamwood to get their side of the story.
Hi, Tom. Can you just talk me through what happened on the day itself?
I was on a Zoom call in the side room, my little office, and I suddenly saw 2 police officers standing behind me.
The doorbell went, and I just opened the door and I saw several police officers standing there. One of them said, "Are you Rosalind?" So I'm immediately panicked. I'm certain they're going to break this terrible news to me. And as soon as I walked into this very room, I was arrested.
They wanted to put Rosalind into handcuffs in front of our 3-year-old until you pleaded with them not to.
They then called my mum, who came over to collect Francesca, and then they said to me, "We're going to search the house."
They took my phone away and they arrested me. One of the police officers began to read a list of grievances, including things like sending emails to the wrong person. And also the other thing the police read out to me was slander. Now, slander is not a criminal matter. In total, 6 police officers came to our house in 3 police vehicles. It was the kind of operation you would associate with raiding a terror cell. To describe it as Kafkaesque is a massive understatement.
I was then taken away, put into a police car and driven to Stevenage. Sitting in the back of the police car, driving down the A1, I felt like I was in a terrible nightmare, and I couldn't believe what was happening.
They took my mugshot,
Fingerprints,
a DNA swab.
they took my shoes to do shoe prints.
It was a mixture of puzzlement, surrealism, and terror.
I think I was put in a cell at about 1 p.m. They took my watch away. And when you're sitting there looking at 4 walls, you lose this sense of time. And I'm sitting there thinking, how on earth has it come to this? What am I doing sitting in a cell? When I got my one phone call, I called my mum. I managed to speak to my daughter. And then we didn't get home till about 1:30 in the morning. My immediate thought was the children. And I went upstairs to check on them, to find them holding hands, asleep. It really broke my heart because I just thought they must have been scared.
Let's track back a bit to the cause of all of this. Kind of protracted disagreement between yourselves and your daughter's primary school.
In November 2023, there was a vacancy for a new head teacher. The governors were meant to get on with the business of appointing a new head teacher. Instead, they appointed the deputy as acting head and in perpetuity, with no explanation about why they were ignoring government guidance, with no explanation of what their plans were. The chair of governors refused to answer any of those questions.
A lot of parents were talking about why this was happening and what was going on.
So I wrote to all the governors and tried to up the ante a bit. I copied that letter into our private parents' WhatsApp group. And then on the 12th of July, 2024, we received a letter attributed to the Chair of Governors. The letter was a list of reprimands against us for talking about the head teacher recruitment process on WhatsApp groups. We thought this was completely outrageous.
I couldn't believe that they were telling grown-ups what they can and can't talk about on WhatsApp.
2 days later, they banned us from the school.
And this is particularly significant because of the fact that your daughter, Sasha, has epilepsy, has various other needs. So how do you manage that? You're now banned from the premises.
Well, that was our main concern. There were times where we were called from the school because she'd had a seizure and we'd have to come in. But we wouldn't be allowed to do that. So this had serious implications. We were not allowed to call the school. So if she was going to have a day off, if she was sick, we'd have to send an email. If there was an issue with swimming, She can't be in the water by herself because if she has a seizure in the water, she can drown. I would have to send an email. And you very quickly rack up emails when that's the only way for you to communicate. We were then reported to the police for emailing too much.
Am I right in saying, Rosalind, that at one point you even kind of quite prophetically foresaw what would happen?
We started talking about it in our WhatsApp group. And I jokingly said, hello, 999, somebody said something mean about me in a WhatsApp group, please can you go and arrest them? And it wasn't long after that I was actually arrested. So yeah, I kind of predicted my own fate there. Somebody thought that it would be a good idea to screenshot everything I was saying and everything Maxie was saying. The acting head, she was reading all of these messages and she would show it to the police.
Looking back through the WhatsApps, the spiciest comments we can find are you calling one senior teacher a control freak.
And calling them a control freak seemed to be quite accurate.
Yeah, well,
that's why we said it.
And saying of the chair of governors, she doesn't know much about anything. There were no threats, there was no obscene language, there was nothing of an inciting nature.
I cannot fathom how a police officer read those messages and thought, yeah, we need to go and arrest these people. So I asked the detective in the interview, what have you got that you have deemed malicious communications? And the response I got was, well, I don't know, we haven't looked at all of the evidence yet because we've got a big folder. I was like, okay, you're interviewing me and you haven't looked at the evidence, you don't know what I've sent that's malicious. And I just said to him, okay, when you've finally gone through it, I look forward to knowing what you think you've got that's malicious.
You'd already had a previous visit from one police officer. I think he advised that you take Sasha out of the school, which you then did, and yet still this process seemed to continue.
The police constable said to me, why didn't you take Sasha out of the school? What's that got to do with the police constable?
The investigation goes on for a period of about 5 weeks. What is it like sitting just waiting to find out what's going to happen?
It was a horrible, horrible period because you've got all that time to think about all the what ifs. Mm-hmm. What if we do get charged? What if we end up in court? What if we're found guilty? All these what ifs. I think that was the worst part, the not knowing what could happen next. And then I was out with a friend one evening and my phone rang. He said, I'm closing the investigation because there isn't any evidence of any of these crimes. I was so relieved.
They still haven't given a proper explanation for what exactly went wrong or why. It shook my faith in the Britain I thought I lived in. I mean, it sounds like an exaggeration, but it does feel like North Korea, that by your dealings with a public authority, that you get nicked. I never imagined that could possibly happen. There were questions asked in the House of Commons.
They were able to send 6 officers to get themselves involved with a dispute with a local school.
Even Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, had to say something about us.
There was a couple who were contacted by the police about what had happened in a school WhatsApp group. You were a bit worried that the police are getting a bit heavy-handed.
It was so ridiculous.
Surreal.
We've had an opportunity to tell our story. And many people who things like this happen to have not had that opportunity.
It makes you wonder how many times this actually happens and we don't know about it.
In a statement, Cowley Hill Primary School told us it sought advice from the police following a high volume of direct correspondence and public social media posts from 2 parents, as this was becoming upsetting for staff. We are always happy for parents to raise concerns, but we do ask that they do this in a suitable way. Hertfordshire Police have not responded to our request for comment.